Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here and for having patience with me, always. So it feels so good to be back. My camera issue is when I was doing my sessions before, I have to have two cameras, one so they can see me, and then another one so they can watch me draw. And so I have to reconnect it into StreamYard when I get back on here. And so I kind of had to do a little bit of that before I got on here. So it's so amazing to be here after a 3 week, 4 week hiatus, whatever long it's been. It's I can actually see. My glasses are like really, really like low. Um, I don't like visit. I can't even think of the word. I'm just excited to be here, but they're like really low. Like I don't need like magnification. That's what I want to say. Like they're really, really low. I think I was up to like a 2.75. That's how bad my eyes were, and I think these ones are like a 1.25. And so I'm still not fully recovered from surgery. If you're just popping on and you didn't know, I think pretty much everybody knows that I had eye surgery. I had two of them back to back within, I think, 9 days of each other, 8 days, 9 days of each other. Um, I am on a corticosteroid for asthma, and unfortunately, that medication caused me to have rare cataracts that were like posterior something cataracts. And so it was to the point that I was almost completely blind when the light would hit. And so everything was really blurry. It was like having two big puff clouds of gray sitting in front of my eyes. And so it was not good at all. And so I'm just glad that my eyes are healing. I still have some flickering, so I have to use just regular lighting right now. And I can't use very bright lights. There goes the camera again. Sorry, my camera's just going wonky. It's probably, whatever, it's probably everything else. But um, I I can't, like, the bright lighting bothers me. I was out in the sun yesterday. It wasn't bothering me too much. The sun yesterday, I noticed there's a lag, and I apologize. It was out there yesterday. It didn't really bother me too much. But what happens is I feel like where the incisions are on the corner of my eyes. It feels like there's pools of water sitting there, and it's like I'm in the water doing this. This is what it does to me. So it makes me very dizzy. I haven't drove very far. I drive probably a mile. But I'm not complaining. I am very, very grateful and very blessed that I was able to have my eyes fixed. And so now I can see, like, I don't know, a couple miles maybe. I'm really grateful to be here. So I've missed each and every one of you. All of you bring some sort of uniqueness into the podcast and things like that too. And so, what have you guys been up to? What have you been doing? Have you been able to get out? How is the weather where you are at? Has the weather, how's it been? Things different now that the warmer weather's starting to come along. Are you able to get outside more? And are you thawed out in your neck of the woods? How is it where you're at? Kind of funny because I'm not even burnt, but for some reason it's funny. The camera makes it look like I've got one heck of a sunburn. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not even that red. So it's just funny. Um, so, but have any of you been able to get out? Yeah, Dave, you are correct because it's nuts. Like it goes from, like today, I think it hit 82 here in Ohio, where I'm at. And probably tonight it'll probably be 30. And it's so irritating how the weather just changes. But, I'm just really looking forward to things being a little bit better. And, for all of us, so at least we can get out and start really diving into self-care of really just getting out there and being out in nature, being outside and things like that. Because if you know me, I absolutely love being outside. So Scott says we are drowning in Vermont. Have you been getting a lot of rain? A lot of rain going on? I take it. Yeah, we've had a lot of rain here too. It's just been kind of, one day it's 70, the next minute it's 30. Today it's 82. It'll probably be 20 tomorrow. It's just crazy how it is, and it just gets kind of irritating. When you're trying to really look at, trying to get outside when, it's been such a long winter. Dave says, go out for a good drive in the backwoods today, but haven't been out fishing in a while. That's all right. Oh, tomorrow's 90. Holy mackerel. I'm glad that you guys are getting out, despite it being, let me fix my camera. Despite it being a little bit outside, the good thing is that you guys are at least trying to get out a little bit. And that's a huge thing when it comes from, shifting from winter, because now we got so much cabin fever going on. And now we're just itching because we're like, oh, wait a minute. Spring's came, but where is spring? I don't think we've seen much of spring. And then it's like, and now summer's going to be coming, and everybody's just itching to get outside. So, Scott says dirt, it's rain, wind, it's crazy. And it is. And we've had a lot of windy days that I swear it would have blown you over. Hopefully, you're able to get outside. There's a part that gives you some relief that you can at least get outside and enjoy a little bit of something, whether it's fresh air, walking around your apartment complex, whatever, if that's what you live, or your house, and just kind of get out and walk around and kind of see what's going on, and kind of go from there, and and stuff like that too. So I haven't been doing too much. I haven't been able to do much. I'm just printing out my notes here, so when we start, and so I've been able to do much. I can't do anything probably until I think it's the middle of June, towards the end. And so because my eyes still are not healed, I have to go to the doctor about every week to have them checked, but I can't do anything. So let me just, so the dishes I can do, but I said I really can't do the dishes much because I'm a sloppy dishwasher. So I'll probably end up getting soap in my eyes, but I can't do dishes. I can't empty out the dryer lint. I can't garden, which means I can't plant. I can't pull weeds. I can't do anything in the dirt because of the chance of it flying in my eyes. I can't fish because if I catch something and the water flies back, the water's dirty. There's a lot of bacteria. And so it could cause me to have an eye infection. Can't go outside if somebody's mowing. Can't go outside if the farmers are farming. And so I really have to be very cautious of what I'm doing and where I'm at, because I can't take a risk of anything getting in my eyes at any time and then ending up with an infection that I do not want. My mom had one, and it was not glorious at all. And so I'm like I said, I'm just grateful that I can see and things like that too. It's amazing. Like I told people, I had when I had my first surgery, it was funny because it was like having an HD eye and then an old Zenith eye, like the girl at the registration was talking about her mom. And I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. And it was so funny because that's exactly what happened to me. So I did have a good eye, and then I had a really bad eye. And it was just like, man, oh man, I can't wait for the surgery to be done. And see, so hold on a minute. I gotta add some paper too. I'm like, where'd my paper go? I gotta add some paper. So I can print out what I want to talk about. So I'm still here, just looking for my paper. I'm like, I know I have paper somewhere. Yeah, thanks, Dave. So I am. I mean, I'm very grateful, super excited. I'm like, where on earth did my paper go? That I'm able to. Well, I might not have any. It's all right. That I'm just, very grateful that I'm just able to see. That's all. So not that I really wanted to go at my age, to have it done, but hey, you had to. Sorry. You know, I had to have it done, and at least I can see. I don't know what happened to my printer paper. I must be losing my marbles. But anyway, because I can't really find it, I'm like, oh, I don't even know where it is, but it's okay. So, yeah, I mean, I can see Jack. It's nice. I'm like, whoa, I really like this. So it's really nice. Oh, you mean to tell me that's all that wanted to print? Stupid thing. I was like, and it was interesting. I think it was yesterday. I was sitting on my porch. I believe it was yesterday or Saturday. I can't remember which day. And I looked up and I could actually see a herd of deer running through the field, and that was like a mile away or so. And I was like, and I could make out what it was, which was pretty cool. So enough about me though. But I just wanted to let you know where I was. For those of you that are regulars, you already knew. For those of you that may be new or wondering where I've been, that's kind of where I've been. My eyes have been my main priority, and so I've kind of missed. Because looking at the screen was really hurting my eyes, even wearing my glasses and stuff. It was just really irritating them. And I just didn't want to ruin them again or anything like that. So, all right. So tonight, what I'd like to talk to you about is the black sheep, rewriting the scapegoat story. And so this is one of them that if you come from a family that could be, a dysfunctional family. Let's just put it that way. And some people don't even know that they had a dysfunctional family until we start talking about things. And then they're like, whoa, wait a minute. I guess my family may have been a little bit dysfunctional. Not putting my family to the forefront of anything. But if you've been on some of my previous podcasts, not to bring embarrassment or shame or anything to any of them, because I look at it this way, they probably didn't even know better because of how they were raised. My grandparents, great grandparents, and so forth, they were raised to where they were probably emotionally dysregulated, didn't even know what emotions truly were. And so that got passed down. And so I am a cycle breaker, and I am a pattern breaker. And so those are things that I like to call myself, because it stops with me. Whatever happened stops with me. And so what I want to do is let you know that obviously our space here is a safe space where healing, honesty, and transformation meets. Week after week, we get on here. Yep. See your family anyways. Oh yeah. Week after week we get on here, and that's kind of where we are when we get on this, podcast, Transformative Healing for Mental Health and Trauma. It's a space for healing. It's a space for honesty, and it's a space for transformation. And what I mean by honesty is that I will bring you truth. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm not going to downplay anything. I'm not going to blow smoke. I'm going to bring you things, the truth from a neuroscience, neurobiology standpoint of things, of healing and transforming. When people come to you, same thing with the black sheep. But what I want to say to you is, if somebody has ever told you that you cannot heal from trauma or anything that you've gone through, they are literally instilling a limiting belief into your brain, into your subconscious, and you are firmly going to believe that you cannot heal. Well, I'm here to tell you can. There's a lot of things that have to be done, but I'm not going to go over all of those. A lot of them, they're on my podcast, on my previous podcasts and things like that. But I talk about different things to tap into the subconscious and rewire it, reprogram. And those are the things that you need. You really need to, it's releasing the trauma on the cellular level, and in order to really get that healing and transformation. And so I bring a lot of honesty, a lot of truth, because my biggest thing is I didn't have that when I was going through my journey until I found my trauma recovery. And so I really want to be able to offer that to everybody that comes here, and let them know that I am your biggest cheerleader. And I can help you in any way that I can. I want to see you succeed. I want to see you transform on the other side, because the new you, you're going to love it. You're going to look at it and go, it's going to be kind of odd for a little while, But then you're going to fall in love with yourself and be like, wow, I should have done this sooner. I know that's how it was for me, and things like that. And so, so what I want to tell you is today we're diving into a powerful role that many of us have carried, often in silence: the black sheep, the scapegoat. And I know that I was one of them in my family. Unfortunately, Sly was one of them in his family. Probably still are. Both of us probably still are, because we are the truth tellers, and that's what they don't like. So if you've ever felt like you didn't fit in, if you were blamed, excluded, or misunderstood, this episode is for you. And so, even if it's not for you, maybe at the end you'll be able to share it and somebody will be able to find it and it would really help them. And so let's talk about who is the black sheep. Who's the black sheep of the family? In every dysfunctional or trauma-influenced family system, unspoken roles often emerge. There's the hero, the golden child, the lost one, and then there's the scapegoat. The scapegoat becomes the emotional dumping ground. They're blamed for things that aren't theirs. They're called too sensitive, too much, or you're just the problem. But I just want to tell you, there's something that's deeper. There's a deeper truth to all of this. The scapegoat is often the one who sees what others won't. Your eyes are opened to the things that are around you. Your eyes are open to the dysfunction. Your eyes are open to the lies. And you feel the weight of the unspoken. They disrupt the illusion. And that disruption is not dysfunction, it's truth telling. Yeah, they were out there earlier looking for some juice. I was like, oh, I need to make some and things like that. And so the black sheep, that's exactly what it is. You are somebody that doesn't take the baloney from your family. You see things in a new dimension with different eyes than everybody around you. And the visual that I can give you is the same visual I like to give my clients. Your family is in the box and you're looking down at them. You're the one that's changed or changing. You're the one that is the cycle breaker. You're leaning towards being a cycle breaker, and all of your family is still in the box, unchanged. And so that's the visual that I can give you. Why does the role even exist? I mean, is there anybody else? I know it's early that we're just talking about this, but is there anybody else that has ever felt like they may have been the scapegoat? And if not, maybe by the time we get done, you might be like, holy smokes, maybe that does sound like me. Scapegoating serves a purpose in a wounded system. It keeps the illusion of normal intact. If the problem is you, the family doesn't have to look at its own pain, its own dysfunction, its own denial, its own abuse. What it does is they look at you. They look at you and focus on you and take everything out on you is what they do. And it often starts early. It often starts in childhood. And so children learn their place very quickly. What gets love? What gets rejection? So you would do things to get love. You would do things to get rejection. You would know what to do to get love, and you would know what not to do because you would feel rejected. And so it's kind of like you were playing like ping pong. Oh, if I want to feel loved, I got to do this. If I want to feel rejected, I guess I got to do this. And so that really screws up the mind. Think about it. That really screws up your mind. That really screws up who you become. That screws up your nervous system. That screws up your emotional, the closeness, like the emotions that you're supposed to feel, the nurturing that you're supposed to feel from your parents, that love and support and that safety that you're supposed to feel. And if you question the rules, oh boy, oh my goodness, we had a neighbor boy, and he was the black sheep, and I used to always say he was the black sheep, and he would always question his parents. Always, he would speak the truth, and he knew, what to do, what not to do, but he would always question them, and the poor kid would always get abused, and it was so sad. But because he was the black sheep and he was going against his own family that were very, very dysfunctional, he was the outcast. And that's exactly what it is. You become the outcast of your family because you're different. You're different than they are. Exactly what I said. You're looking in the box at them because they're all unchanged, but there's something different about you that they don't like. If you speak the truth, if you feel deeply, you get casted out. You're the outcast. You're the black sheep. Not because you're bad, but because your presence reveals what others are unwilling to feel. Pretty like, holy mackerel, huh? It's crazy. So it's just like, wow. And so, it took me a little while to discover this when I went through my own trauma recovery and, getting my certifications and stuff. And I was like, whoo, especially, looking at, what did we do for our parents to love us? Or, and then there was things that we did that would get them to reject us. And it was like, oh, wow. And things like that too. And so this kind of strikes a nerve with me because it's like, it happens in a lot of families because going back, again, intergenerationally, all of those intergenerational traumas being passed down and passed down. Our parents didn't know how to care for themselves, let alone how to love and care for children. So I kind of try to give them grace. So I'm not like, I try to give them grace and say, okay, this is what happened. I get it. It's intergenerational, but how can I stop it from going on beyond me? How can I stop it so my kids and grandkids are not affected? And it's not an easy choice. It's not an easy thing to do. It's very, very hard when you've come from a dysfunctional family with years of abuse, years of abandonment, emotional dysregulation, nervous system dysregulation, and you're learning to undo all of that and getting to a regulated state. It's very, very hard, very hard. So living as the scapegoat creates deep wounds. You start to question your reality. You internalize shame. You might become hypervigilant, anxious, and even disconnected from your body. You learn to anticipate rejection before it happens. But the aftermath of all of it, it's a powerful soul who was never the problem. You are a truth teller and a cycle breaker. And so Dave said, sounds like my childhood explains why I was always out in the woods and not with my family. Absolutely. I was sitting there, and now that you just said that, Dave, that does bring up, I was always constantly outside. I hated being inside. I hated it. And now looking back that you just said that, now because my home was not a safe place. And so I was always outside. And I'd stay out there till it was dark until my parents would call me in. And then when I was being raised by my dad, it was the same thing. And so looking back, it makes sense. I was always outside. I always wanted to get away from there as much as I could. And even if it was just, we lived near an air base for the military, and it was a dead end. So there was times that I would just go, we had like boulders. And there was sometimes I just go sit behind the boulders and watch the jets come in and the planes come in, the Air Force planes and stuff come in, and things like that too. And so, sometimes it's just getting away and you don't realize why until something like this is brought up. But I want you to remember, all of you, that if this is something that you've gone through, that you're a truth teller and you're a cycle breaker. That's why, you were casted out, because you've seen something beyond what was happening. And so you were never broken. You were carrying pain that wasn't yours to hold. So sometimes that pain got a little bit unbearable, and sometimes we had to leave that environment that all of the memories that were dysregulating our nervous system at the time that we didn't know because we were younger, so, we went out and did things. And it's, those are things that we had to do to survive. We had to do those to survive. And so those were survival skills, that you just decided to go outside. You decided to go out and, do this just to get out of it, even though we didn't know that's what we were doing. That's what we were doing. And so being the scapegoat, the black sheep of the family, becomes grief, or there comes with grief. Sorry. So being the scapegoat and the black sheep of the family, there comes grief, a lot of grief. And so as I went through my own recovery, I had to grieve a lot of things, and it wasn't the easiest thing to do. And there are still times that I'm like, yeah, these things. But what I figure is this, not figure, but what I do is this. There's grief and healing this. And so grief for the love you didn't get. So I may have not have gotten a lot of love from my family or showing love in all of these weird ways. But as a cycle breaker and a truth teller, what I do is I love my kids more. Not willing. I love them more. I tell my kids a whole lot I love them. Maybe like 50 million times a day. I love you. I love you. I love you. I can't tell them I love them enough because I never want them to question if they ever felt loved. I want them to feel that I love them. Even though we have disagreements, I still love them. I would lay down my life for all 5 of my kids in a heartbeat. That's how much I love them. And so I want them to know and never question that they were loved. Grief for the family you imagined. Sometimes we look at our friends and we say, oh man, they have it all together. They go here, they go there, they do this, they do that, but not me. My family's dysfunctional. So sometimes we have to grieve for the family that we didn't have, that we wished we have, that we didn't. But what I'm trying to do, and what I encourage all of you to do, is to try to make that family the family you imagined. And even if your kids are grown, you can still give them love. You can still go out and do things with them. But give yourself that family that you never had with yourself and your own kids. Grieve for the years you spent trying to earn belonging by shrinking yourself. You minimized yourself. We minimize ourselves in situations when we find out that we don't feel important. We start minimizing ourselves. That's part of who we become. We minimize ourselves. We don't want to be seen, because if we're seen, then we are more likely to get attacked by family. And so we minimize, we shrink. But what I want you to understand and what I want you to know is healing is possible. It starts with naming what happened. It deepens as you reclaim your voice, regulating your nervous system, and building a safe connection. And so that all of this happens within yourself and others. So it's called the interpersonal bridge, I believe it's what it's called. And what this is when you start healing, you're looking for others that are positive, that are will help you reclaim your voice, regulate your nervous system, build safe connections. And that's how you start healing each other. It's not codependency, but when you're around the right people, your healing will start taking place. When you're around a lot of the people that'll just sit and listen, the people that see you and hear you and allow you to talk without traumatizing them, of course, you will start healing more. You get to set boundaries. Boundaries are very important when it comes to these things, when we're coming out of these types of things, and you get to rewrite your story. Your story is not over. And one thing I want to tell you is you're not the black sheep. You're the sacred one who refused to lie. And so you rose up above. And so you're different. You're not your family. So you're different. You've seen things through a different lens. And so, it's reclaiming your voice, being able to regulate your nervous system and build safe connections with yourself and others. And I think that's why a lot of, again, a lot of people go fishing, and stuff like that. You can build that connection through fishing. And just kind of, you don't even really have to talk, but you're out in nature. Nature's huge, and things like that too. And fishing really helps to regulate your nervous system when you're out in nature. So remember, you're not the black sheep. You're the sacred one who refused to lie. So what happens when we finally name the role we've been living in? What happens when we stop asking what's wrong with me and start asking what was done to me? Or you might even ask, what was I carrying that never belonged to me? Because that's the beginning of healing. When you can say to yourself, what was I carrying that never belonged to me? It's not yours to carry. That's the beginning of healing. Because scapegoating isn't just a role, it's a false narrative written on your soul by someone else's pain. And so that pain is not yours to carry. And so when you literally rise up and say, that pain is not mine, it's time to rewrite it. It's time to rewrite my story. That's when your healing will start taking place. Get it? First, you must see it. The moment that you realize, I was never the problem, I was the mirror. And so that's another thing you have to look at. It wasn't you that was the problem. You were just happened to be the person that ended up getting the brunt force of everything that happened. Because again, you were the cycle breaker. You were the truth teller. Your eyes were open to things that nobody else could see because they were all stuck together. That awareness alone can shake your whole foundation. And that's okay. Healing begins in the shaking. In fact, the pain you feel when you name it, that's not the wound getting worse. That's the wound finally being seen. And so you know how I tell you week after week to sit with your nervous system and all of those things that come out, and we just can't sit with it. And sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sit with it for 30 seconds, sit with it for a minute. But sometimes it's like we just can't sit with it because it shakes us and we just don't like the shaking, you know, the shaking. We don't like the uncomfortable. But we can sit with it for a few minutes and say, if I wasn't broken, what was I? If I wasn't too much, what was I offering? And if I wasn't rejected because I was bad, was I rejected because I was brave? And those are things you have to ask yourself. Those are things that you have to name because, again, you were never the problem. You were just the mirror. You were the one taking it all in. Somebody was projecting all of their trauma, all of their dysregulation, all of their dysfunction onto you, a young child or a young teenager. And so it's a matter of looking at everything and saying, okay, I've realized I was not the problem. They were. This is not mine to carry. I'm not carrying this any longer. And work on excreting it from your body through journaling, breath work, NeuroSomatic art. There's so many different things that you can do to start getting this out of your system. Boundaries, inner child, and nervous system repair. You know, this is another good thing because, you know, boundaries, we talk about boundaries. Boundaries are hard to set for trauma survivors because we're so used to people treating us like trash. And some of us are people pleasers. And so we're used to that. And we don't like saying, no, stop, because we don't like confrontation. But when you can learn to set boundaries, boundaries are a way to show that you love yourself. How do you love yourself enough to say, I'm not going to allow them to do that to me? When you love yourself enough for you to say, I'm not going to allow them to do that to me anymore. Loving yourself enough to protect yourself. You wouldn't want anybody else to do that to you anymore. And so, you know, looking at that. Yep. Dave says, I'm a pleaser and not afraid to admit it. And Scott said, boundaries, no one listens to my boundaries. And Sly says, I was with a mouth that said what I thought and still do. And you do. And so that's why you go against the grain. You go against what everybody else is saying. It's the same thing with my family. They don't like me talking about the things that happened in my household. They don't like it because it was very dysfunctional. There was a lot of things that took place in my household. They don't like me talking about it. I still do. I don't care anymore. I don't care. Years ago, absolutely. I was embarrassed to probably talk about it, but you know what? No, I'm not. I'm not embarrassed to talk about it anymore because other people need to hear our stories. And Scott, it is, so, boundaries, no one listens to my boundaries. And so that's when um, you need to set boundaries and say, okay, they're not going to listen. Then you need to probably, chances are, recommendation, you probably need to cut them out of your life, or don't go above and beyond in doing things for them. Plain and simple, because boundaries are for you. And if they're not respecting your boundaries, then you need to say, okay, here's my boundaries. They're not respecting them. And now they get this much of me now. Don't open yourself up way to hear if they're not respecting boundaries. They need to, and stuff. Yeah, of course. You know why? Because their reaction, what is that saying? They're not respecting your boundaries. So you're reacting on them. And now, they're causing a reaction, and now that's you. And so, exactly. So when it comes to the boundary thing, I would just look at it as a reflection of yourself. What is it that you're looking for? What is the boundary that you're setting that they're crossing? And then know, okay, if that boundary's crossed, you have to give them, you control yourself. You can't control other people. And so when it comes to boundary setting, you have to look at, how much of myself am I willing to give somebody? Like, same thing when, how much power, it's not even power, but I'm just using it. How much power am I giving them of me? Or how much of myself am I giving them? Does that make sense? And then you have to decide how much of yourself you're willing to give to them. If it's to the point that you say something and they're crossing your boundaries, you have to look at what the first barrier is. What is your first boundary that you're setting? Because if you're not setting that first boundary, and say you've got 5 boundaries set and they get to the 3rd one or they get to the 5th one, then okay, now they're back down to number 1. They don't get to have access to the whole entire Scott anymore. They're back on level 1. So, and level 1 could be that they can call you, and if you answer, you answer, or whatever it is. You see what I mean? They have to work up, because it's about trust. All boundaries is about trust, but it's about you loving yourself and accepting that you don't deserve that type of treatment. That's what it is. And you know what? If they say that you're the a-hole, then you know what? That's perfectly fine. It is what it is. Hold on a minute. Hello? Yeah, well, I'm in the middle of doing my podcast, you goober. All right, call Anna. Oh, well, call Dad. Oh, brother. Okay, well, I'll send message through the podcast. All right, bye. Love you too. Bye-bye. Okay. Nick needs picked up at the DG. Sorry. And so then of course you're having a reaction because they are making you upset. And so now you're the jerk. I'm just going to say jerk. You're not really a jerk, but so then I'm not using that other word. And so now you become a jerk because now you're having a reaction to what they're saying. Like they're literally disrespecting you. And so that's what a boundary is. It's when it goes up and they start disrespecting you, cut them off right away. Cut them off right away. That's what a boundary is. When you start feeling disrespected and you start loving yourself and accepting yourself and start healing more, when people start treating you like trash, you're going to be like, I'm done. Well, see you later. And you're going to recognize that. Whether you're a people pleaser and you like people, you don't deserve that type of treatment. Took me a lot of years to finally realize that. And Sly and I were having a conversation on the way home the other day. And I said, I loved throwing cookouts. I loved doing things, and having people over. But I'm in a season of, I'm enjoying being by myself. Not that I'm a loner, but I'm in a season of change. I'm in a season of elevation. God is elevating me to the next level. And I need to be with people that are going to elevate me where I'm going. And the people that have not elevated me are being left behind. People that are Christian people that are backstabbing, Christian people that are two-faced, Christian people that have talked about me and gossiped about me. And the thing is they don't realize is all three of them are of the enemy. Do I talk about people? I used to, absolutely. But why I'm telling you this is because boundaries are important. And when you start realizing your worth and how much you truly love yourself, those boundaries are going to be easier to set. I don't need friends anymore like that. It's nice. Don't get me wrong. But I don't need friends like that anymore that aren't in my corner. If my friend or somebody is disrespecting my boundaries, they don't have access to me anymore. If they're making me feel like garbage, they don't have access to me anymore. And I have learned, you know what? I don't need friends to have fun. I can go, honestly, if I wanted to go by myself and go and have a good time, I could. I used to go out to lunch by myself all the time and just sit there and just enjoy myself. And so don't look at the boundary thing, as a, yes, you just need to look and kind of dig a little bit more about what it is about those boundaries, and maybe some people pleasing, about how you can set new boundaries or set boundaries, firm boundaries. So when they, and all you have to say is, hey, you know what, you crossed my boundary, or no, no, I'm not, you've disrespected me. And then you have the choice to walk away, hang up on them, do whatever. You're in control of you. And then Dave says, I recently blocked my mom and sister, so now I only have my grandma and a half brother in my immediate family, but my wife constantly reminds me of our kids and our family. Absolutely. And I'm grateful for her, because it is. I mean, and that was the thing, that when I didn't talk to my family for quite a while, I grieved that loss of my family. I grieved that loss because you know what? You want your family, you want your mom, you want your dad, you want your siblings. But I remember for the longest time, people would ask me, hey, Gina, how many, do you have any brothers, or do you have any siblings? And I would tell people I'm an only child. I'm an only child. And they'd say, you are? And I'm like, yeah. And then I'd feel guilty and say, no, I have two older brothers. And stuff like that. And I left there when I was 16. So really, they're my brothers, but I don't know them like brothers. And so my family is here. My husband and my kids, my grandkids, my family is here now. And so I cherish them. And I'm like, you know what? And I cherish my husband. And you know what I say? You know what? I can go out and do things with them. Ooh, somebody shooting a gun. Just scared me. I can give myself the family that I longed for with my family. So don't ever discredit, looking beyond your immediate family and looking and saying, you know what? I have my own family right here. And they will, Dave. You know what? They, if this is what I say, you know what? Yeah, somebody was out there yesterday and the day before too. Kids, no. But it's you trying your best. When you try your best with what you have and what there you go. It's when things are brought to light and you're like, oh, you have an aha moment and you're like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. Then it's like, whoa, okay. That's when you go back and then you can change. You can rewrite some things. you can explain to your kids why these types of things happened, and things like that too. And so, just so you kind of understand, that there. And so even your kids being older, when they get older, they might ask you questions, or they might get a little bit older, and you might notice some characteristics in them that maybe you start remembering when you were their age. And so that you can offer some love and support, to them as they, get a little bit older. You may notice a little bit more when they start hitting about 25 to 27, each of them, when their prefrontal cortex actually starts developing more. You may notice that's when you may notice a little bit of a difference in them and things like that too. And, you might not, but that's when there has been, intergenerational, it's usually always, not always, but the prefrontal cortex, when it starts developing in our, mid 20s, we start, it doesn't fully develop, or it's underdeveloped when there's been a lot of trauma or intergenerational trauma. There could be. And so if you start, noticing anything, at least, you are well aware of some things. And so you can, go back and change that cycle within your own kids. And so, yeah. And then Dave says, my dad passed away a few years ago, and that's when things started to fall apart. I just met my half brother and we hit it off great. I'm sorry to hear about your dad, even though it was a long time ago, but there's still, even it has been a long time ago. It's the grieving the loss of a parent, and making sure that, you're taking care of yourself. Nobody prepares you for losing a parent. We all know, one day we're all going to pass, but nobody ever prepares you. And so, the grieving is tough. And so if he was kind of the glue that held your family together, now it's navigating without him. But, you were able to meet your half brother. And so that, that's a wonderful thing. Despite your dad passing away, which was a sad thing, I am glad that you were able to meet your half brother and hopefully be able to have a relationship with him, and things like that too, which, was amazing as well. And, and I tell people, you'll get through it. It just takes time, and the grieving and things like that too. So, things like that as well. So it's like, you'll get there. Takes time. So once you see the lie, the next level is reclaiming safety. So remember, we're talking about boundaries, inner children, and the nervous system repair. And this is all a part of when you're healing and transforming and trying to heal from the scapegoat and the black sheep. Because being the scapegoat means you probably never felt emotionally safe. And so a lot of emotions, when the boundaries are broken, there's a lot of emotional dysregulation because your emotions are all out of place. And that's a trigger. The disrespectfulness is a trigger. When somebody says something to you, it could be a trigger. And so, take those things into consideration. And so some of the things, I just want to give you some of the characteristics of things that may happen. So you kind of understand exactly what happens. You might flinch when people get close. You might still apologize when you've done nothing wrong. And I think this is one of the ones that I remember always doing that. I would always apologize for things that I didn't do wrong, but I'd always apologize. And it makes sense. We were always the ones apologizing. You might live in a constant state of bracing. And a state of bracing means is that you were waiting for something to happen so you could kind of flee, so you could kind of run. You were bracing for whatever impact was coming to you. You were always embracing, which means you were always living on the edge. You were always living in survival, always in a dysregulated state, wondering when is the next attack going to happen to me. You were embracing for impact, the impact of all that negativity coming onto you like the mirror. Somebody was spewing all of their hate, all of their pain, all of their abuse, all of their denial onto you. So that's where nervous system regulation becomes essential. You have to learn to regulate your emotions in your nervous system in order for healing to take place, because you get to reteach your body what safety feels like through breath, through art, through grounding. Those are the three. Just like I always say, NeuroSomatic art, they do all three: breath work, grounding, and art. It's reprogramming your subconscious. Not that that was just something that, that was in there, but that's what it is, because the trauma is rooted in our cells and our physiological systems, which is in our systems of the body and our cells in the body. You have to do something in order to get it out of there. And you just can't sit around. You have to learn to start eliminating it out of your system. You have to learn to start reprogramming, rewiring, and reconnecting the subconscious. You have to. You can go to counseling until you're 80 years old. You can see your therapist, but until you start working on all of the trapped emotions, the trapped trauma in the cells, chances are, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but chances are you're not going to get to the other side of healing, because you need to work on the body first and then the mind. Because it's the mind, it's the body, what's happening in the body, that's driving the mind and the thoughts and the anxiety. So you have to work on this first before you can work on the mind. So again, you did nothing wrong. You didn't deserve to be blamed. And I want to tell you that I love you and I got you now. I'm here to help you uncover all of this. It's hard. Very, very hard. Inner child work isn't cute or trendy. It's sacred. That inner child is looking for the things that it longed for, the things that it missed. If you drive by McDonald's, like for instance, if you drive by McDonald's and you've never had a Happy Meal before, well, you may be one of those adults, and all of a sudden you get all giddy, like, oh my goodness, a Happy Meal. So you go through the drive-through and you buy yourself a Happy Meal. And then that satisfies. That's your inner child wanting a Happy Meal, because you may have never gotten one before. You may go by the ice cream store and you'd be like, oh, I've never had an ice cream cone before. And you go in and you treat yourself. That's because your inner child was never able to do any of that. You may go to, like me, Build-A-Bear. I get excited about Build-A-Bear. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to make a Build-A-Bear. And I'm like a little kid in the candy store. I will go and Build-A-Bear. I will pick out the bear. I will stuff it. They'll stuff it. I'll do my thing, just like I'm like 5 years old. And that satisfies me. I have one that my daughter and I did a couple years ago. Mine and Elsa one that we went to Build-A-Bear for my birthday. But those types of things satisfy my inner child and makes my inner child feel good. So I'm not going to stop doing it. So just remember, inner child work isn't cute or trendy. It's sacred. It's you rescuing the one who was left behind, giving that inner child what he or she needs, what he or she longs for, the safety, the security, the nurturing, the things that they did not experience. The good experiences, nothing negative, but all of the positive ones. And again, boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors. They don't shut people out. They invite in only who is safe, sound, and true. That's a good one. So you wouldn't allow a stranger to disrespect you. So why would you allow a friend? That's what you have to look at. You have to look at that. Why do you allow people to do this to you? So it goes back to consequences. If somebody does not respect your boundaries, what is the consequence? You have to set up a consequence for them. Look what Dave did. Unfortunately, Dave said he had to block it. What was his mom and his sister, I believe. He had to block them. They did not respect his boundaries. So he blocked them. That's what he had to do. So that's what we have to look at. So let's look at, finding your people. Your people are the ones that are in your corner. The ones that are helping you rewrite your narrative. The ones that are positive. The ones that are going to elevate you. These are the people that are another part of rewriting your narrative. because rewriting is who you, it's like it's you belonging to. So who do you belong to? When you're rewriting your narrative, who do you belong to? You get to stop chasing people for approval. The ones that don't, the people that are not committed to understanding you. These are the people that are not in your corner. The ones that don't understand you, they're not in your corner. They don't deserve to be in your life or in your corner for that matter. You get to stop begging for scraps of love from tables where your soul is starved. That's a big one. That's huge. You can't sit at a table where you're not wanted. Think about that. Or I should say this, you shouldn't sit at a table where you're not wanted. Just because you're invited doesn't mean you're not wanted. Just because you're invited doesn't mean you're wanted. Let that sink in. That's powerful. How many times have you been invited to something and you just go and then you're like, yeah, it is. Dave said that's a Hallmark card. It is. Think about it. You get to stop begging for scraps of love from tables where your soul is starved. And instead, you build a new table. You find chosen family. You find people who say, you're not too much. I see you. I'm here for the long haul. Support networks, healing spaces, sacred friendships. Those aren't luxuries. Those are lifelines. You see, the black sheep becomes the shepherd when he or she finds her own flock. That's powerful. That's powerful. Let me read that to you again, because that's powerful. Let this sink into you. You get to stop begging for scraps of love from tables where your soul is starved. And instead, you build a new table. A new table that has your chosen family or friends. And the ones that you find will say, you're not too much. I see you, and I'm here for the long haul. Those people are your support networks, your healing spaces, your sacred friendships, and they're not luxuries. They are lifelines, because the black sheep becomes the shepherd when he or she finds her own flock. That's where healing is going to take place, my friends. When you start building your new table, when you start having your chosen family, when you start having people that say, you're not too much, I see you, I hear you, I'm here for the long haul, that is when healing takes place. That's when you're going to notice something shifting in you, because those people are going to start illuminating their aura onto you. So their positivity is going to start coming out to you. You're going to start changing because the circle that you're in is changing you. That is when healing. It's amazing, amazing, amazing when those types of things take place. When it takes place. You're not going to change if you're just sitting around with, Debbie Downer or negative Nancy. Absolutely not. Chances are they're going to win you over as far as, you're going to end up taking on their stance. So what I can tell you is build your own table. Build your own table and bring in those that love you and care for you for who you are. Accepting your flaws, accepting everything about you, that see you and are there for the long haul, because those are going to be your people. Your people. Just like, every once in a while, I'm going to talk about Scott for a minute because, he's a great guy. But there's times that he calls and he'll talk to Sly, and the first thing he'll you can tell, and I feel so bad for him, but he gets, he's all stirred up. And so I'll say, you know what, Scott, do some breathing, calm down, you're all right. And stuff like that too. And I'll just kind of talk in the background at him, and I can always tell, his voice starts calming down and stuff like that. And then he starts apologizing. I'm sorry that I called you. I'm sorry that, that I bothered you. I'm sorry this. And I'm like, no. So I tell him, you know what? Don't apologize. You are more than welcome to call at any time. Whether you just want to chit chat, to slide, but I'm in the background because I can hear him. If anytime you want to call, if you need a friend, call. You're not a bother. But so many trauma survivors think that they're a bother because they were a bother to their own parents. And so you're never a bother. We're always here. You're seen, you're heard, you're safe when you talk to us. And so that's just, that's just how it goes. When you find somebody that's more like family, you'll see. Yes, and it happens. And that's just because your nervous system still needs some work, and you'll get there. You'll get there. So let's take a moment to reflect. And I want you to ask yourself if you notice anything stirring in your body. As we went over talking about the scapegoat and the black sheep, did you notice anything stirring in your body? And I want you to ask yourself, when did you notice that you first didn't belong? And whose pain have you been carrying that was never yours to carry at all? And then what truth do I know about myself that no one gave me permission to believe? Because remember, you don't need permission. You don't need their permission anymore. You don't need their permission anymore. You get to belong to yourself. That's huge. You don't belong to anyone anymore. You belong to yourself. So what I want to say is to every black sheep listening, you were not born to be cast out. You were born to see what others were afraid to look at. You are the light in the darkness. You are the new beginning. So start creating your tables. Create your tables for new people to join. And before you know it, your table is going to expand and expand and expand and expand. It's amazing. Does anybody have any questions? Any questions, comments, anything I can help you with? How are your nervous systems feeling? When you were able to identify that maybe this is something that kind of hits home for you. Is everybody okay? Your nervous system's okay? Are you feeling a little nervous and dysregulated? How are you feeling? Remember, if you're feeling a little dysregulated, a little anxious, there's the 5-finger breathing technique. And so that 5-finger breathing technique, what you do is start at the thumb. Start it with the thumb. I had to think. I was like, wait a minute. And so when you go up the thumb, don't go very fast, but just go, in a gentle, in a, not a gentle manner, but a steady manner. As you go up the thumb, you will inhale in your nose. And as you go down the thumb, you will exhale slowly. And then kind of go up. And so that's the 5-finger breathing technique. Dave, I would love to have you join. We talk about a lot of things. Sometimes we just get on here and just kind of chat. But I would love to have you. And if at any time you ever need any help, if something ever happens and things like that, you can always feel free to reach out. My email's on the YouTube page, and and things like that too. And anything that I can do to try to help, that's what I'm here for. And so the 5-finger breathing technique is really a grounding and a breathing. What it does is it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest, and helps you kind of stay grounded and relax. And so, Dave's got the right idea. He said he's going to go sit by a fire and contemplate. And so, I hope it's, really, sitting and reflecting on where you were and where you are now, looking at, the good of things and things like that too, and everything. And so, it's looking at, some of the bad, but looking at the good through all of the bad, looking at the good and things like that. And so, when I was writing my testimony to share, because I just feel, God was really stirring in me and stuff. And, you really don't, for me, I didn't, I could look and say, oh, well, God saved me in here and God saved me there, da, 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 da. But, until I started writing it and visually seeing it and really writing it, I was like, holy mackerel. Like I really, there are areas, a lot of areas. It was just, this was just 1/10 of part of my testimony because I have several of them. But it was like, wow. And so when you look at the bad and then you look at the good, you're like, whoa, whether, you believe in God or not, that's fine. But looking at the bad things that we've gone through, but look where we are today. We might not have it all together, but you know what? We have it all together. So, all right. So if this episode spoke to your soul, I invite you to share it with someone who needs to hear this, please. And so I would love for you to like and share on your social medias, if you would, please. And you can always connect with me. My website and my email is in my YouTube. If you feel like you would love, not love, but if you feel you would like to email me your story, a portion of your story, I'd be honored to hear it and help you in any way that I can. And so until next time, if we don't have any questions, I hope each and every one of you have a tremendous week. Hopefully the temperatures out east will start warming up so you all can start getting out and the temperatures will stay steady here in Ohio and things like that too. But until next time, stay rooted, stay brave, and stay whole. I hope you all have a wonderful night. Enjoy your fire, Dave. And I will see you on the next one, everyone. Have a wonderful night. Good night.